If you're curious about or you're planning on doing an LS swap, well, good news, you have landed on the right video. What we're going to be doing today is basically going over an LS junkyard treasure map, so you have a good idea of what LSs you're actually going to be targeting, what type of vehicles they come in, and what are the reasons for targeting that specific LS engine. So let's get into it. To the Jumbotron of knowledge. Top 5 best LS picks. Junkyard pulls is what we're looking at here. Why this matters, junkyard LS swaps, you get big power for very cheap. There's millions produced, so they're extremely affordable. You get a good balance of cost versus performance versus weight. They're actually quite small. Like when you compare an LS to like a Coyote engine is significantly bigger. So because the LS is so small, it's going to fit in a whole bunch of packages, so they're ideal for swapping. You just need to know what you need to pick. So we're going to be talking about specific models, locations, and other tips, and a few things to avoid. Alright, so first things first, you need to know how to read a VIN code. So we're going to go over that real quick before we get into the video. So a VIN code looks like this. You're going to have all these letters. This is what's underneath the windshield. It's also usually on the door, and sometimes it's also underneath the hood. You're looking for the 8th number, that's the engine type. So here's a couple of examples how that would work. So this is a 1974 Corvette. This isn't the whole VIN code, they have it chopped off, but this is the 8th number. That particular year it came in J, T, and Z. These are the engines that correspond with this. This is the J VIN code, so that is the 350 with 195 horsepower, the L48. You're probably not going to be able to see these, so you'll just have to trust me. So this one's actually numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so you get an idea what it looks like. 8th number is a 7. This particular one was a LT4 for a 6 VIN code and an LT1 for a 7 VIN code, so this is a LT1. That's basically how to look for it. So when you're doing the junkyard swapping, what you're looking for is the 8th number of the VIN code. The other VIN code numbers mean different things. We're not worried about that. You're worried about number or letter, number 8. All right, so the first one, we're going to do the top 5 list. Now this isn't top 5 in order of best to worst or worst to best. All these are number 1 picks. We're talking about the top 5 number 1 picks and why you'd want to pick those particular ones. So the ultimate budget king, that's going to be number 1 in our top 5 pick. That is a 5.3 liter 325. It's got a bore and stroke of 96 to 92 millimeters. Now it's not a perfect 96 millimeters, like 96.01. You got 9.5 to 1 compression, 235 horsepower to 300 horsepower. This is going to be an LM7. That's what you're looking for here. This is going to come in years from 1999 to 2007, found in Silverados, Tahoes, excuse the spelling. I tell the AI what to put in the slides, and sometimes it just does its own thing. You fight with it, it only gets worse. Suburbans and Sierras. This one is the most common V8 on the planet. This is the ultimate cheap pull. This is going to be usually found for a couple of $100. Now, this is legendary because it's able to handle torque. It's got a decent bottom end. They're reporting on the internet that you can take it from stock bottom end to about 600 and 700 horsepower before it falls apart. So this is the ultimate budget king. This one is on the list because it is the cheapest one. Remember, this is the LM7. That's what you're looking for there. This is what you're going to find it in. Vehicles like this. Alright, so now we have the aluminum sleeper version of the LM7. This one's going to cost a little bit more money. This is a 5.0 liter 325. Again, same bore and stroke. However, now you got 10 to 1 or 10 to 10.5 to 1 compression. That is really good. So you're going to get significantly more power out of this. This is the L33. This is the aluminum 5.3 liter. This is going to come in the years 2005 to 2007. This is going to be your 4-wheel drive extended cab trucks. This is going to be a VIN code B. This is going to be about 80 to 100 pounds lighter than the previous engine we were just talking about. It's got your factory flat top pistons. It's going to come with the heads, the 799 and the 243 head, which is a pretty good head. This is what you're going to be looking at for vehicles it's going to come in. Alright, so now we got the forced induction tank. This is your 6 liter, your 364. You got a bore and stroke of 101.6 to 92. This is going to come in 10.4 to 10 to 1 compression. If you are looking for forced induction, you're going to be looking for the 9.4 because you're going to be able to throw more boost at it. Yeah, you can still throw a boost at a 10-to-1 compression, but 3 to 5 pounds of boost, yeah, we're Americans. We do 10 to 15 pounds of boost. That's where we live. If you want to run 10 to 15 pounds of boost to play it safe, you're going to want to be at the 9.4 to 1. So you're going to be looking up that one. Factory, the 9.4 is going to have 300 horsepower. The 10 to 1 is going to have 345 horsepower. This is the LQ4 6-liter iron block. It's going to be in 99s to 07s trucks and vans. This is going to be your straight-up utility engine. Very common, and it was a very wide year that they were in, so you're going to be able to find those pretty good. Why pull these? That's because of the big bore and the big heads and low compression if you're going to go with heavy boost, and it's got a stronger low-end torque. Obviously because of more horsepower. This is the types of vehicles you're going to find it in. Your fleet trucks, your extended cabs, stuff like that. All right, so now if you want a naturally aspirated powerhouse, you're going to be looking for your 6-liter 364. It's got a bore and stroke of 101.6 to 92. 10-to-1 compression, 345 horse, all the way up to 380 horse. This is going to be your LQ9s. Again, lean on the VIN codes here. So this is going to be in your 2002s to 2007s, Escalades, Silverado SSs, and your Denali's. Yeah, these vehicles are getting a little bit more rare, so finding the donor might be a little bit more expensive, but you can do it. Just keep your eyes out. Why pull it? You got flat top pistons with a cam only. You can get up to 450 horsepower on pump gas, which is not bad at all. This is what they're going to come in. You're going to be looking for vehicles like this. Again, lean on the VIN code because there's a horsepower split, 345 to 380. Now, that doesn't really matter if you're going to be doing swaps like cam and heads or stuff like that, but it's the LQ9 you're looking for. All right, so now we got the Holy Grail. This is your 6-liter to 6.2-liter, 364 to 376. Your bore and stroke is 101 to 103. It's going to come in a whole bunch of variety of compression rations. You got 9.6 to 10.5 to 1, which is freaking amazing. 10.5 to 1 means you're not going to have to touch the bottom end if you're keeping it naturally aspirated. It's already there. So anything you put on the top end is going to be greatly enhanced because you're at such a high compression. Factory is going to come with 352 horsepower up to 403 depending on the compression ratio. This is your L92 to the LY6. This is your Gen, what is it, 5s? 6-liter, yeah, 5. I always forget my Roman numeral, sorry about that. This is your 6-liter, 6.2-liter. So we're obviously going to be, if you're keeping it naturally aspirated, looking for, because it's 6.2-liter, this is going to be your 07 to 2013, so you have a nice wide year gap that's going to come in. Denali's, this is your high-end trucks, your heavy-duty trucks. Why pull this? Factory rectangular port heads, which is awesome. Beefy rods, awesome. 400 horsepower. Basically, they're depending, I mean, this one's a little bit less, so you're going to have to switch it out. Now, no matter what, you're going to be doing a cam swap on this because it's going to have the variable valve timing and the AMF. So you're going to have to do an AMF delete on there. You're going to have to budget for that. This is the types of vehicles that are going to be coming in. All right, so things to avoid. Your LS4, because it's got a weird bell housing. Apparently, it doesn't bolt up with other stuff. I've never played with the LS4, but that's what the internet's saying. Earlier 706 and 862 heads, they're prone to cracking. If you are not wanting to do a delete or crack open the block, you're going to avoid the AFM, the DOD, and the variable valve timing. These all require a special ECU that's going to have to play with the chassis too because it's going to read vehicle speed and stuff like that. So you can't just run the ECU on the engine and expect this to work. Unless you're keeping it in the original vehicle, you're going to have to delete these. Always test compression. Always do that. Now, if you're doing the delete, the displacement on demand, you're going to want to be budgeting something like $1,000. Now, you can get different kits. Some include cams, some don't. But what you really have to change, and then you have these little towers inside the valve cover. You're going to have to take a pop rivet gun and plug all these. Now, these particular kits, like this one comes because this had variable valve timing, they're deleting all that. This comes with the cam, the sprocket, everything you need right there. This is a $1,000 kit right here. So you are going to have to budget some money for that. This was almost $1,000 by itself. But the good news is, though, when you switch out the cam in that, you're unlocking a bunch of power. So is this necessarily a bad thing? Should you avoid those engines? If you don't want to crack them open, yes, avoid the engines. If you don't really care if you crack it open, you're switching to a performance cam. So now you're making a badass engine, plus you're killing two birds with one stone. So this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but remember, you're going to have to keep this in budget because, like I said, the chassis also has a bunch of sensors on that makes this stuff work. So by itself, it's not going to work. All right, so heads. This is your 706 head. This is where your casting number is located at. This is one you want to avoid right here. There are a couple of different styles of heads. The cathedral ports, these are the ones that don't flow quite as well. You want to get a rectangle port head. So this is your ideal port. For the really high race engines, obviously these are going to be bigger ports, bigger heads. But you're shooting for rectangle because the cathedral, again, earlier heads, the heads only got better as they progressed on. Now, if budget doesn't matter and you're just looking for whatever, you just want to do a junkyard pull for some reason, LS7, that's number one you're going to be looking for. That's your 7-liter, 427, 505 horse right out of the gate. LS9 is a 6.2-liter supercharged, 638 horsepower right out of the gate. LS8, it's a slightly dumbed-down version of the LS9, so you're going to only have 556 horsepower. Then for naturally aspirated, the best one there is your LS3. It's going to come factory with 436 horsepower, and I'm pretty sure these don't have the displacement on demand, so you don't have to worry about deleting that or variable valve timing. LS2, that's your 6-liter, 360 to 400 horsepower. All right, so now there's a couple of different ways to take a look at junkyard pulls on which we're going to be doing here. First, you want to figure out your goal ahead of time. What am I looking at? Am I looking to put boost on it? Am I looking to stay naturally aspirated? Am I looking to do a build engine? What exactly am I doing? That's your first goal. Once you figure out that goal, you have a plan in your head, because if you don't have a plan, shit's going to get all fucked up. So you need to have a plan. Get your plan down, decide exactly what you're going to do. Now we're going to start shopping for engines. After we pick the engine, you have two main approaches. One, chase the horsepower you want, consequences be damned. So you're like, all right, I want 700 horsepower. I don't care if I blow out the bottom end. I don't care if I smoke rings. I don't care what happens. I'm going to get this block, and I'm going to go for that particular horsepower. Or option number two, you build something that's reliable that won't eat itself. So like, let's say I want 500 horsepower, and LS3 with a cam in it, I'm at 500 horsepower, and that's going to be a reliable engine. That's going to go 100,000 miles. Everything's going to be totally fine. Just, you want to be reasonable. So stay within like 50 horsepower to 100 horsepower. You're going to be reliable. Can you push it farther? Yes. But now you're chasing the horsepower you want, and screw the consequences. To play it safe, look at what the base horsepower is, and you could probably bolt on another 100 horsepower without having to worry about anything. Obviously, you're going to have to get it tuned. Now, also, you're going to want to select the engine on the vehicle you want to do. Like, say, for example, you want to do an S10 swap. Weight is obviously the goal here. So I'm going to want to go with an aluminum block. I'm going to want to keep it reliable. You know, this is a hypothetical build. I want to keep it reliable. I want to keep it close to factory. I don't want to tear open the motor and get rid of displacement on demand. So I'm going to go with an LS3. And I'm just going to stick it in there. 435 horsepower. That's great. I don't have to do any research and development or anything like that. GM did it all. I'm not touching the engine at all, so it's going to be maximum reliability with maximum weight savings inside that particular package. Now, next thing, find a donor vehicle you can start and run and pull the engine out of it. Because if you can't start and run it, you don't know if it's got a head gasket problem, and if it's aluminum block with a head gasket problem, it could have actually destroyed the block itself, so you want to avoid those. Find your donor vehicle at a junkyard where you can fire it up, hear it run, make sure it's not chugging smoke, make sure it don't have a bunch of blow-by, do some basic engine testing on it, do a compression test, just go over the engine and pick through it. Picking the right junkyard makes the difference, because a good junkyard, they're going to have the donor vehicle and you're going to be allowed to start it. A bad junkyard, they have all these engines pre-pulled on a shelf and you have to just trust their word. Yeah, they'll throw a guarantee on it like, oh, if it don't run, you can just bring it back, but do you really want to do an engine swap and be like, oh, this engine's junk, now I got to pull it out and I take it back to the junkyard and I get a different engine. They said this one worked. What's to say the next one I put in don't work? And now I got to do this whole process over again? No, find yourself a donor vehicle where you can start it up, run the engine, run basic verification tests on it before you yank that engine out of there. Anyways, appreciate you guys watching this video. Hope you found it entertaining, maybe even just a little bit of educational. We'll cover in future videos, breaking down heads, going over that different stuff like that. So if you're interested in engine swapping like that, I strongly recommend subscribing. Now, if you'd like to help support the channel, the best way to do that is click on that Amazon affiliate link. Even if you don't buy what that link is for, just click on it. Do the Amazon shopping you were already going to do anyway, and I'll get a little kickback for it because you came there off my channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.